Welcome to another 5-minute fight against racism, jazz fans. Have you ever been in the middle of a discussion and suddenly somebody told you to stop tone policing? I have. Here's what that's about. Tone policing happens when someone shifts a discussion about racism away from racism and towards someone's tone or approach. So instead of staying focused on oppression or injustice, they want to focus on the way that those things are being talked about. Here's an example. A comment in response to the Utah Jazz posting an Instagram image that said Black Lives Matter. She says, "I'm disappointed with the Jazz. I feel like you could have handled this better." Tone policing shows up in comments like, "I'm not racist. I oppose racism, but I think there are better ways." Tone policing shows up in comments like, "I oppose racism, but I don't think that players should kneel during the national anthem because that's disrespectful." Tone policing shows up when white people focus more on the most obviously disruptive reactions to racism, like vandalism and violence, than they do on the racist conditions that provoked disruptive reactions. Tone policing shows up when we point to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as an example of good and peaceful protest, and then we point a finger at Malcolm X as a dangerous militant, which, by the way, misrepresents both Dr. King and Malcolm X. As Ijeoma Oluo writes, tone policing prioritizes the comfort of the privileged person over the oppression of the disadvantaged person. Most damagingly, it places prerequisites on being heard and helped. But wait, one Instagrammer says, if you want people to listen to what you have to say, you have to do it respectfully and peacefully. I mean, yeah, that's great. My own preferred approach is to speak clearly and calmly here, right? That's what I'm trying to do in these videos. I'm trying not to seem angry. I'm trying not to seem like I'm attacking people. But notice how tone policing allows me to claim the moral high ground, right? Racism's bad, but I disapprove of how you're talking about it. Aren't I a wonderful, rational human? No wonder people don't like to listen to you. You sound so angry. You see, as a white person, especially as a white man, I've been socialized to think that my opinion matters very much, and that if I use a certain tone, I'll be more likely to convince somebody that what I'm saying is right, because I can appear rational and civilized and be more likely to win people to my side. I'm less likely to seem extreme or violent, even if my anger shows through, compared to a black person. I mean, studies have shown that black children are perceived as being more aggressive than white children for displaying the exact same kind of kid behaviors. So this problem runs deep and the impact is wide. I don't carry the same weight on my shoulders that black people carry. I haven't experienced racism the ways that they do, so it's way easier for me to stay calm and speak rationally because my own life and my own safety isn't on the line like theirs is. I don't feel the same urgency of the cause. It makes sense that some of the most passionate and even strident voices that we hear are people of color. And white people are already conditioned to feel like it's not a black person's place to lecture us. Another important point, when white people applaud Dr. Martin Luther King's nonviolent approach today, they're apparently unaware of the fact that in his time, he was viewed by most white people as a radical, as a dangerous person who incited violence and riots. All right, can we blame white people for this? I mean, Dr. King's legacy has been whitewashed to make him into a non-controversial American hero, and we forget what he was really like. He was tone policed throughout his entire life. To be clear, I think nonviolent and reasoned and fervent approaches are a really good way to go. However, it's not my place to lecture people of color about how to deal with their oppression. In the words of James Baldwin, not only does the white world impose the most intolerable conditions on Negro life, they also presume to dictate the mode, manner, terms, and style of one's reaction against those conditions. To sum up, tone policing is what happens when privileged people want to focus more on the way a message is delivered than on the message itself. If racism is bad isn't delivered in a pretty enough package, then we can just mark it return to sender. Even though I personally favor calm and reasoned discussion, can I really expect everyone whose life is at stake to approach me meekly and calmly as if my own comfort level is the most important way to gauge whether I want to fight against racism? As a white person, the simple fact is I'm not always going to feel comfortable with how different black people react to racism or how they fight against it. But if I truly oppose racism and injustice myself, then I'm going to focus on the fight itself, the fight against racism, rather than my own discomfort about different people's tactics. Thanks for watching another 5-minute fight against racism. Check out the other videos, leave a comment, share it with your friends. Let's get the message out there. Let's keep fighting racism together here in Utah.